Hello, everybody, and welcome to this evening's reading, which is the first of several readings throughout the month of May, as the guest of Bealtaine at Home, the at-home book club by the Bealtaine Festival for 2020, curated by Mia Gallagher. So if you look up the hashtag Bealtaine at Home on Facebook, you'll be able to see all of the activities that are planned. Two books have been selected primarily as the reading choices for the Bealtaine at Home. And the first is The Jewel by Neil Hegarty. And the second is The Years That Followed, which I'm going to read from now, my own 10th novel. So there will be several readings throughout the month of May. There will be interviews on Facebook with Mia Gallagher for both myself and for Neil Hegarty. And Neil and I will also be adding some blog posts with the backgrounds to our novels at various different stages throughout the month. So do check in, look for the hashtag Bealtaine at Home, and come and join us on the Facebook page and for the readings, which will be happening throughout the month. And we will post the links to each reading on the day that they occur. So this is my novel, The Years That Followed. And as we're going to be having interviews and doing blog posts and giving a little bit of background about the inspiration for the books, I'm just going to start this evening and I'm just going to introduce you to the two main characters. And the first of these characters is called Callista. And the opening, the prologue, is set in the extreme west of Spain, over close to Portugal. And it's Friday, the 14th of July, 1989. The July heat is an anvil. The sky, its usual oppressive blue. The landscape trembles and shimmers, retreating where it can from the unforgiving glare of noon. Callista splashes cold water on her face, pats herself dry with a towel. She makes sure to pat gently. No point in helping to make things worse than they already are. She raises her eyes to the mirror and stops, as though startled by what she sees there. She leans closer. Her unflinching brown eyes look back at her. With one finger, she traces the sudden circles, the newly wrinkled flesh at the corners of her eyes. All those fine lines, she thinks. They will soon be fissures. My face will one day look like some arid Indian riverbed. Callista is at once reminded of Marula, of how she used to look. The woman seemed to age all at once. It was as though she'd stepped straight from youthful to elderly, with no gracious hinterland in between. Callista sees now on her own cheeks those same faint explosions of red, tiny veins threading their way towards each other. A premature labyrinth of expired blood. Her breath catches for a moment. Callista hates this, the way she looks so much older than she should. She replaces the towel on the rail, smoothing its folds. Before she turns away, she runs her fingers through the silver bob of her hair, tucking a strand or two back into place. She's vain about her hair, proud of its thickness and its defiant, steely hue. She still needs this daily reminder, this visual marker of the time when overnight her hair had turned from black to grey. The potency of that transformation is not to be forgotten. And Callista has never wished to forget. Dyeing her hair would in some way have been a betrayal of Imogen and all that had gone before. She walks quickly through her bedroom now and out of the double doors onto the upper terrace, where she moves at once to the shadiest spot. The breeze, such as it is, which coils itself round the hills, is at its best here. There is today the faintest scent of pine. Callista eases herself onto the lounger, which is placed at the perfect angle to catch every current of cooler air. It also allows her an unrestricted view of the gates of the house while at the same time hiding her from sight. She lies back and rests her arms across her chest, fingers interlaced. Like a corpse might look once it has been laid out, she thinks, and she smiles. Tomorrow, perhaps, or the day after, she will drive down to the village and have a glass of rosé with Rosa. Rosé with Rosa, it had made the young woman laugh the first time they'd met, the way that she, Callista, rolled her Spanish R's. Just like a native, Rosa grinned. But I am not a native, Callista thinks. I do not come from here. Sometimes it feels that she is from very far away, centuries away, and she has merely dropped in to finish some ancient story before disappearing again. She feels sad for a moment, sad for how Rosa and her family will feel when all of this blows wide open, as it surely must. Callista has a stab of something that feels like fear. She begins to breathe deeply, slowly, calming herself. She knows that she needs to hold her nerve. This is no time for confidences. She glances at her watch. She'll rest now, just for a little while. And somewhere across the country, we're still in Spain, is Pilar in Madrid. Same day, Friday, 14th of July, 1989. Pilar startles as the door to the street swings shut behind her. She reaches out, tries to grab one of the handles, but the 3 bags of vegetables she is carrying make her clumsy, slower than usual. The early morning silence ruptures as the door slams. Metal clangs against metal. Pilar winces as she feels the sudden vibration under her slippered feet. It's as though the whole building shudders. She takes one anxious moment to watch and wait, in case a pane of glass shatters, but nothing happens. She shrugs to herself and turns away. So what if the residents complain? What more can she do? She's already called Juan Pablo to fix the closing mechanism. That door has been acting up again since last Thursday. One of those intermittent faults that started up several weeks back. The kind that Juan Pablo keeps grumbling about because they're so difficult to repair. The kind that frustrate Pilar more than anything else in the building. The sound of the telephone in the porteria is shrapnel in the morning air. Pilar hurries across the foyer to answer it, struggling to keep the plastic bags under control. Sí, señora, she says, enseguida, immediately, at once, now. Sometimes Pilar wonders whether the residents of her building know any other words. Most of them don't even see her, of course. This is what Pilar has come to believe. She is an unseen presence, someone who takes in the post, runs errands, keeps the building secure. She makes sure that the residents are spared those unpleasant daily reminders of all that she does for them. Rufina comes every morning, only when everyone has already left. No one sees her mops and buckets. No one stumbles into the silent moving shadow that cleans the dog shit off their floors and polishes the chrome handles of their apartment doors. Pilar makes her way back across the marble floor, heading towards the lift. The cool, air-conditioned atmosphere is welcoming after the furnace that rages outside. Even at 6 in the morning, the heat at the market had been oppressive. Pilar had felt a slow stickiness crawl between her breasts and underneath the heaviness of her hair. Stole holders fanned themselves. Damp half-moons bloomed under the sagging armpits of their t-shirts. There was a musky animal scent everywhere, sweat trapped by the awnings that had been placed there to defeat the sun. All the women were complaining, most of them loudly, about prices, about the corruption of their elected officials, about all that public money about to be wasted on the forthcoming elections. Who needed politicians and their fancy suits? You couldn't open a newspaper these days without finding out about some scandal or other. Water, planning permissions, taxpayers' money used to fund junkets abroad. The intense heat added a bitter edge to the women's complaints, more fuel to the fire of their satisfied indignation. Pilar had the feeling that even the most stoical of these elderly, black-garbed shoppers had begun to lose their patience. Never mind mid-July, they were all agreed. These temperatures were still not right, still not normal. There are afternoons when Pilar feels that all the oxygen has been sucked out of the air, that it has been replaced by the gritty red dust that is slowly exhaled by long, clammy daylight hours. It settles everywhere around the building, this red dust, above the doors, on the tops of skirting boards. It lurks on the treads of the stairs too, no matter how often Pilar has Rufina dust and mop and brush all the horizontal surfaces she can find. But she cannot defeat its constant, rusty presence. A few years back, Pilar developed a stoop. Not a real one, of course. She's not yet that old. Almost 50, she has already outlived her mother. Her father is still alive in his native village, deep in the Extremaduran countryside, or at least he was 3 months ago. Pilar still sends money home from time to time, although she's long since stopped trying to influence how her father spends it. Her brothers were supposed to take care of him once he was too old to work the land. But the older and more infirm he got, the angrier her father became. He is a man who does not like to be looked after. Pilar feels sorry for her eldest brother, Paco, who lives in the home place. She has little time, though, for the other two, Javier and Carlos, who still live resentfully in that same small village that they've known all their lives. Paco never married. It is he who will inherit the olive groves. The wives of Javier and Carlos are as bitter about this as the olive flesh they helped to harvest. Pilar has seen it on too many occasions, the contempt in their eyes, their thinly veiled aggression towards gentle Paco, their endless squabbling over money. And in the midst of it all, her father, Miguel, who sits like some feudal lord surrounded by his vassals, truculent, overbearing, unwilling to hand over the reins. Pilar often wonders how Paco stands it. As well as her father's rage, it seems to Pilar that the more competent her three brothers became, the more their father envied them. When his sons became adults, it was as though he saw in their burgeoning lives a mockery of his own diminishing one. He refused to leave the farm after Pilar's mother died. He stayed. He still stays. He lashes out again and again. Once she'd left home, Pilar rarely returned to visit. There are days even still when Pilar feels guilty for leaving. Over the years, she often felt that she was living on undeserved time in Madrid, time granted to her in exchange for escaping her father, her brothers, her village, her mother's fate. Pilar always knew that her real life had been wrenched away from her more than 20 years ago. She knew it even at the time. Whenever she came close to reclaiming it, it slipped away from her again. On those occasions, she blamed herself bitterly for her own lack of courage. She came to know the ashy taste of regret. But now everything is different. Life has given Pilar a second chance. All the years ahead are full of luminous promise. Pilar has learned how to be patient, how to behave, how not to rock the boat. Her greying hair, her hesitancies, and her stoop are part of the suit of armour she gathers around her while she deals with all those lives that inhabit her building. Pilar has learned to keep her gaze just below theirs. Most of the residents prefer not to have eye contact. She has learned that they like to come and go unnoticed. She lets them believe that they are, indeed, unnoticed. But from the small rectangular window in the door of her porteria, Pilar watches them, waits until they leave to fulfill whatever purpose they have, to travel to whatever daily destinations they have. In the morning, she ticks them off her list, one by one. In the same notebook, she keeps a tally of the money that each one owes her. She has learned in the past how it is often convenient for people to forget. She watches and waits and watches. And she's also learned that with most of them, what she sees is merely surface. Underneath, she is sure they are all hiding something. Okay, that's it for this evening. I'll be here again at the same time on Thursday night. And in the meantime, I want to give my thanks also to the holding cell for its hospitality over the last several weeks. And please look up hashtag Bealtaine at home to get more information about the book club that will run all of this month. And the two main titles chosen are The Jewel by Neil Hegarty and The Years That Followed by myself. Thank you very much for turning up this evening, and I will see you again on Thursday. All the best, and bye for now. Keep well, keep safe, and stay at home for another little while. Bye for now.